On today's episode of Locked On Utes, we're talking about the future quarterbacks at the University of Utah. First, Diabell, the son of Raja Bell, was recently offered by Utah. How good will he be? And we're going to talk about Isaac Wilson. His stock continues to rise after a sensational week at the Polynesian Bowl. All that and more on today's Locked On.
You are Locked On Utes, your daily podcast on the Utah Utes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for making Locked On Utes your first listen every single day. We are available on all platforms, including YouTube and wherever you may get your podcast. If it's your first time listening to our show, make sure you like and subscribe. Love interacting with all of you in the YouTube comments as well as on social media. You can follow our show at Locked On Utes on X. Today's episode of Locked On Utes is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code Locked On for $20 off your first purchase. That's Locked On, all caps, no spaces, for $20 off. My name is JT Wistrcill, former intern inside the University of Utah Athletic Department. And on today's show, we are talking all things Utah quarterbacks. As I teased, Isaac Wilson will go second. Also closing the show out with just everything going on at the University of Utah this coming weekend. But first, want to start with the son of Raja Bell. That's right, the former Utah Jazz player that became a fan favorite for his physical defense. And talk about his son, Diabell, who has been an elite prospect after his freshman year. Came out and took a visit to the University of Utah. And today, Utah officially offered him, and they're not the only ones, too. We can talk about all the interest he has. But when you talk about Diabell, talk about 6'2", 195, and class of 26, right? So still got a couple of years. But there's a reason Utah and a lot of teams are already going to start offering him, because he's a really good player. And this is the type of guy that you want to get in early on, because he's going to be one of the best quarterbacks in the nation. He already is for his class, but I'm talking about when this stuff really heats up after guys' junior years. He's now played 2 seasons of high school football, and each one has gotten better. And when I turn on Diabell's tape, what I see is just the ball placement is tremendous. Just the ability to fit passes into tight windows, the accuracy, his ability to diagnose what a defense is doing pre-snap and figure out, okay, where can I make this throw? And where's the best place that allows me to maximize the yardage too? Just does a good job identifying the coverages that teams are in. Puts defenders in a bind with his eyes, does a good job manipulating them. A tremendous athlete, too, does a great job escaping pressure. He's not the biggest guy, right? So I don't think, but also, once again, this is where he's only a sophomore in high school, so he's still got time to grow. 6'2", 195. And what I mean by the biggest guy is the frame's not the biggest. Obviously, he should be tall. I expect him to continue to grow, but so already liking those intangibles, too. Also has a strong arm who can make off-platform throws. He's accurate at all 3 levels. Patient and does a good job going through his progressions, and a quick release. Yeah, I'm a big fan of Bell's game when you turn it on, and just the amount of potential and the things that he shows right now is what really impresses me, because that's all I want to see right now more than is the potential. Like, what are the signs you're capable of becoming? Potential is going to be a huge theme in this episode, because it's also what we're going to talk about with Isaac Wilson a lot. And Bell has the potential to be a tremendous quarterback to me at the next level. When you look at those intangibles and just the ability to impress with his arm, make those off-platform throws already, the accuracy he's displaying as just a sophomore is remarkable. And what has me very excited about him being a future star quarterback at the collegiate level. And I would love for it to be Utah. There's also a lot of other teams that are very interested in Bell, and will continue to be as the years come on, right? Like, first there's Utah, Arizona offered him, Auburn has an offer, Florida has offered him, Ole Miss, Nebraska, Miami, Indiana, Penn State, Washington, Wisconsin. You get it. He is a very well sought after player, and he's only going to continue to be a sought after quarterback too, because of those elite skill sets that I just highlighted too. And once again, I love that Utah is getting in early on Bell, because he is a guy to me that just has that tremendous upside potential. I could definitely see a world where in a few years, your Ohio State, USC, all of those are taking an even closer look and offering him to. And, with the way these things change, they could have already offered him by the time this comes out tomorrow, right? Like, that's the crazy thing about the world of college sports right now, especially. And one other thing about that I do like is I think it's a huge positive that his dad played in the NBA too, because, like, just the athleticism is there in the family. Like, that's something too, comes from an athletic background. And I'll say this even more so than the athletic background. knows what it takes. He has a dad and someone in his life who knows what it takes to make it at the highest level. I think that is really important because there's a lot of guys that have talent, right? But not all of them are willing to put in the work at the time. And you see a lot of those guys that get to college and it doesn't end up working out for them too. And that's where it's disappointing always when that is the case. But when you're talking about Bell, his dad in Raja, based on how he played, he was a very, like you said, a really tough defender, physical, just wasn't the type of guy who was going to get outworked. Was never the most talented NBA player, but was there because of his work ethic. And I think when you look at Bell, he's a guy that already has just tremendous talent. And I think his dad has already obviously made sure he is a hard worker. He's going to continue to be a hard worker, I expect. He's a guy who wants to continue to win at the highest level too. And once again, I just think this is a really good get for the University of Utah, getting in early and offering Bell, and hopefully they'll be able to land him one day too, and that'd be a big thing too. And also keeping with just the theme of talking about Bell and everything, and 26 quarterbacks. That's one thing that is also bears in mind when you are talking about the future. Is there's not just good 26 quarterbacks outside of Utah. There's also one in Utah, and that is Helaman Kasuga, who just transferred to Corner Canyon. He has the job of replacing Isaac Wilson, and I think he's going to do a pretty good job of that. In fact, his number one receiver will be Jerome Miles, who recently visited the University of Utah, and I think that'd be a fantastic addition to with his him being an explosive and athletic receiver on the outside. Who him and Isaac Wilson had a great chemistry and connection. It would be fun to see those guys continue it if he came. But going back and talking about Kasuga, when you look at the Corner Canyon quarterback tree, just a really quick aside, Jackson Dart, Isaac Wilson, Zach Wilson, Devin Brown. Those guys are all at the Power 5 level. And of course, Wilson was the second overall pick in the NFL draft. Yes, as it worked out in the NFL, but also remember how hard it is to make it in the NFL. And the fact that he was even the second overall pick just shows you what a tremendous and incredible talent he is. So once again, I just very in on this move to offer Bell early. I think when you look at all the tools and the potential for his age, he's got a chance to be a special signal caller at the collegiate level. I don't question the work ethic. I think it's going to be there. I think this is a guy who shows just everything I've seen and kind of read too, shows leadership potential too, which is always very important at the quarterback position. And I'm really optimistic about Bell's future. Be awesome if Utah was able to land him. And look, we know too, I should just mention this, when I mentioned all the things about Raja, like playing in the NBA and what it takes to make it and be an elite athlete. How about Raja living in Utah and not thinking I think a lot of, once again, there's just, this is a wrong narrative that's out there, but it does exist. A lot of people hear Utah and they instantly go, nah, I don't want to go out there. But when you get out to Utah, you see what an amazing place it is, whether it's the mountains and all the other great things the city has to offer. And obviously a pretty dang good football team in the University of Utah too, which is something obviously very appealing to Bell in this process. But I just do think that's something too, where Raja knows hey, I have no problem with my son going out to Utah. I know what a great place it is like that. And as I said, I just think there's a lot of misconceptions about Utah out there that do just deter some of the recruits away mistakenly. And we know it's not going to be the case for Bell. So it's going to be interesting to monitor him and see how this whole situation ends up going. That is his recruiting, because it's once again, this is far from the final offer he's going to get, and they're only going to continue to get better after, especially by this time next year, he'll have had a monster junior season, and his recruiting will continue to heat up. So we'll see what Utah is able to do when it comes to bringing in the son of Raja Bell and Dia Bell. Alrighty, that's going to do it for Bell talk, but not for the quarterback talk, as we want to talk about Isaac Wilson here and just the monumental weekend he had last weekend, what he did with the Polynesian Bowl. We're going to be diving into that in one moment, but first, I want to talk to all of you about our friends at Gametime. Gametime is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all sports, music, comedy, and theater events near you. Right now, they have great deals that allow you to get in with last-minute tickets, flash deals, zone deals, and it's just easy to find and buy tickets for every kind of event in your area. They have view from your seats, and that gives you from the venue, so you know what kind of a deal you're getting. They also have the low price guarantee, even event cancellation and job loss protection. Gametime has those deals and tickets right up to the start of the event, and even an hour after it starts. It's the place to find last-minute tickets. And they have the Gametime guarantee. It means you'll always get the best price if you find tickets in the same section and row for less. Gametime will credit you 110% of the difference. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Right now, new customers on Gametime can use the code to bet 100 off a big game ticket with code VEGAS. That's VEGAS 100. Vegas 100. All caps, no spaces there. Terms apply. Again, just download the Gametime app and use code VEGAS100 for 100 off a big game ticket. Or if you're not going to the game, use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guarantee. Alrighty. Also want to talk to you all about one of our friends on the Locked On Network. It's UCCU. Learn and Earn, the UCCU mobile banking app that pays your entire family to learn about money. Kids look to parents to become more financially literate. Parents don't always know the answers. Learn and Earn breaks down financial topics into fun, bite-sized educational games like quizzes and trivia. Every time a family member completes a topic, they earn points that can occur and can be redeemed for gift cards to stores like Amazon, Apple, Sephora, Walmart, Nike, and more. There is age-appropriate content for every member of the family who can compete against each other and track their progress on leaderboards. Learn and Earn is inside the UCCU mobile banking app so you can play it anytime, anywhere. The more you play, the more you learn. And the more you learn, the more you earn. Learn and Earn, part of UCCU's award-winning Be Money Smart Youth Banking Program, helping kids, teens, and parents have fun while becoming more financially literate together. UCCU, love where you bank. All righty, coming back into this one, already got done talking about one elite quarterback prospect and on to another. And the nice thing about Isaac Wilson is he, of course, already is committed to go to the University of Utah. Wilson, the 6-foot, 190-pound quarterback, a 4-star, just tremendous. Was up for Max Preps Player of the Year, won Max Preps for Utah, obviously, with what he did, or Gatorade Player of the Year, excuse me. And I think he's up for Gatorade Player of the Year nationally, but he won all the awards in Utah. He just set all types of, I don't think actually not records, because there's been a lot of other really good quarterbacks who come through the state too, but this year he led in several statistical categories and was just a monster when it comes to distributing the football at a high level and just making plays. And that continued when he went down to the Polynesian Bowl, which is where the top 100 players in high school football go out to and perform. And he was really good. He's actually named the co-player of the year for the 2023 Polynesian High School Football Player of the Year award with Dylan Raiola. So a tremendous honor for him. And he got to play in the game and practice down there. He was a standout at one of the early practices. We talked about that on the show, but we didn't get to actually talk about the game. And it was awesome to see Isaac Wilson just against these elite teams and elite players making those kind of big time throws and shining in some big time moments. Now, he did have a turnover. So that's also, actually, it might have even been 2, but now I'm trying to remember it correctly. It was hard to find stats on the game based on everything I was trying to look up. But even though he did, the turnovers don't concern me as much, because once again, Isaac Wilson, I'm excited because as a prospect, the potential is immense. And that is what this is all about. We're talking about a quarterback who is 21 overall in the rankings, but I think has a chance to be even better. Some of the stuff I was reading about him, someone quoted him, and I think this was what someone said from the Polynesian Bowl. Could have been a 24/7 sports thing, so I apologize. But someone said he just has that younger brother chip on his shoulder, that he wants to be good. I don't think he wants to be known as, oh, that's Zach Wilson's younger brother. People want to say, that was Isaac Wilson. How about, we don't say, when you talk about Eli Manning, you don't say Peyton's younger brother. You say Eli Manning, because that's a 2-time Super Bowl winner, just like Peyton Manning was. In fact, Eli was even better in both of his Super Bowl wins, right? Because obviously Peyton's ladder of his Super Bowl wins, he was carried by that Denver defense, versus Eli made some incredible plays. But I think Eli actually ended up being 500 throughout his career, which is just an insane statistic, versus Peyton, obviously one of the 5 greatest, if not one of the 3 greatest NFL quarterbacks. I'd probably say 3 greatest off the top of my head. But either way, it's this big thing. You want to step out from your brother's shadow. And that's what Wilson's been able to do for his high school career. And now he's going to look to do it his collegiate career. And if he can do it at the collegiate career well enough, he'll look to do it at the NFL level too. But really love some of the impressive throws that Wilson made on the move, just showing off that explosive arm he's got. And yeah, he did turn it over, as I mentioned. But once again, why does that not concern me? Because Isaac Wilson is not going to be Utah's starter this coming year. He's going to sit and learn. And also, he's only going to play when he's ready. So even if that is not in the 2025 season, I feel confident by 26 he'd be ready. But if you're telling me that Brandon Rose or a transfer quarterback beat out Isaac Wilson, I wouldn't be shocked, because sometimes it does take guys 1 to 2 years to get ready. And then we see them really take off. Think about Jackson Dart, a former Corner Canyon quarterback, how at Ole Miss, his first year at USC showed signs of potential, but they weren't great. Even the first year at Ole Miss, good, not great. But then these last 2 years, because I think he's been down there for 3 years now, if I remember correctly, he's been tremendous and just instrumental in the renaissance of Ole Miss football. And honestly, they've done things they've never even done before. So it's even better than a renaissance, honestly. But that's where it's not a panic mode time if Wilson doesn't walk in right away. And well, obviously not right away because Cam Rising, but walk in his second year and win the job to me as well. I know he has the potential to be really good. There's a reason he was a really high ranked player. And I think that he has the chance at Utah to do some special things, win Big 12 championships, be up for major awards like that. I'm not going to say he's going to win a Heisman, but I'm saying just be up for Big 12 Player of the Year awards, things like that. And it's tremendous. And if you're telling me he was at a Heisman ceremony, I'm not going to fall out of my chair because once again, we saw his brother literally have a tremendous season and go number 2 overall in the draft. We've seen someone do it from literally his family. So who's to say he couldn't? I already mentioned the Mannings. I'm not saying the Wilsons are going to be the Mannings. I don't think they are. We've seen Zach's career is not going the greatest right now. I'm not going to give up on him, but it's not going the greatest. But Isaac has the potential and chance to be really good. I just like that against the 100 best players, he was making plays and making throws. And I don't think it's a shame that other guys who are amongst the 100 best players also picked him off. That's a superstar, like an all-star defense on the other side. Like that is never the talent that's on the field like that. Like even the defenses he goes against will they be better in terms of like, yeah, they're college for a few years like that? Sure. But like they don't have the, some of the picks and plays made in that game, the instincts of that. There won't be a defense that has that many top 100 players on it unless he's gotten Utah to the playoffs and they're facing off against Georgia, right? Like those are the kind you won't see that in the Big 12 and in most of the college football playoff games if Wilson was to start and lead Utah to those games. So I think that's something to bear in mind once again on the turnovers, but so incredibly excited for Wilson to get up to Utah. I think he's going to have a tremendous career here. I think he's going to be a multi-year starter. I've said if I had to predict, I think Cam will be the starter this year, and I do think Wilson will be the guy next year. But it's going to be a fun battle a year from now. And we're talking about Brandon Rose versus Isaac Wilson in spring ball. I'm incredibly excited to see that play out. That will be more entertaining than this year's battle for the backup quarterback spot. It'll still be entertaining to see like where is Wilson at and where is Rose at. I expect Rose to have that after spring ball comes to a close. Just like if Bryson Barnes had come back to Utah and Brandon Rose and him were already close, I think just another year of development for Brandon Rose, he would have passed Bryson Barnes. And it's going to be the same thing to me with Isaac Wilson. I expect first spring ball and in fall camp, Brandon Rose will be Utah's backup quarterback. He's more experienced. He's been around a little bit longer. But fast forward to the 2025 season, and that's where I expect Isaac Wilson to have the collegiate experience, and that's where his talent will take over. Just like Brandon's talent to me would have allowed him to pass Bryson in that similar situation. So going to be really interesting to see what the future of Isaac Wilson, what that era will bring at Utah football, but so excited for the potential he has. And it was fun to watch him do his thing in the Polynesian Bowl, making some plays in there. And once again, just congrats to him for being named that the co-player of the year like that for the Polynesian Bowl High School Football Co-Player of the Year award. Just tremendous stuff. And props to him too. And not the last hardware I think he is going to be bringing home post his high school career, in which he also won a state championship. So he's doing pretty well in that regard. That's going to do it for our current football talk, but there's a lot going on at the University of Utah this coming weekend, and I want to dive into all of that with you in a moment. But first, I want to talk about our friends at FanDuel Sportsbook. NFL Conference Championship weekend is here, and there's still time to get in on the action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. It's $150 in bonus bets, win or lose. The app is easy to use, and there are so many different ways to bet, like live same-game parlays. You can find bets in the new Explore tab. You can make a parlay in the Parlay Hub, the best way to find popular parlays, and more. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make your first bet a layup. FanDuel, an official partner of the NFL. And speaking of FanDuel, we've been doing this throughout the week on Locked On Utes, been having some of our guests give their NFL picks, and now it's time for me to give mine. So first, I told you guys where I was kind of leaning earlier in the week, but now I'm going to do it. I think earlier in the week, I was leaning towards the Chiefs. I got to be honest. The more I just think about this Ravens defense and how good this team is, and yes, the Chiefs played their best game of the season last week, but for so much of the year, they haven't been. The better team is the Ravens. They're better defensively. And just they're better in the trenches too. And I can't ignore the trenches. As great as Mahomes he's the best player on the field. The Ravens have Lamar Jackson and Roquan Smith. And I just like these depths and the pieces. And it's crazy to think I would take the Ravens receivers over the Chiefs receivers, but that is 1000% the truth. This is going to be a fun matchup between two of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, two of the best teams in the NFL. But I got to side with the team, that's been the more consistent one. I'll go with the Ravens. Then in the second game, the Detroit Lions at the San Francisco 49ers. I think the Lions run has been great. I think it's been really memorable, but I still think the 49ers are going to win. So I have I do take the 49ers, and I think they're going to cover. I think both these teams will cover. I think the Ravens will win by a little. I do love the 3.5. I could definitely see like the Chiefs being a backdoor cover kind of there, like making it close, and the Ravens get the late field goal to win, or Mahomes is trying to drive and they get stalled or whatever. But I do think I think I'm going to go both teams win outright. I think the Niners will as well. Depending on how you guys feel, make sure you head over to FanDuel Sportsbook. Alrighty, coming in to close it out, we're talking about all things going on at the University of Utah. And the first one to talk about was a game before we get into the preview of the weekend, as the Utah men's basketball team fell to Washington State 79-57. And this one, I just chalk up to injuries. Davon Smith only played 12 minutes. He got hurt, only had 4 points. He'd been huge in helping the team survive without Lawson Lovering and Raleigh Wooster. You're just not going to win games when your stars are hurt. And yes, I know that Washington State isn't tremendous, but they have the exact same record as Utah, 14-6, 5-4 in conference play, all of those things. So that's where I do think it bears in mind what the Cougars are doing. They're 6th in the Pac-12 right now. And as for the Utah men's basketball team, they currently sit tied for 6th in the Pac-12 too. But they got an opportunity to get right. They'll get to play Washington on the 27th, and that is one where I do think Utah will emerge victorious. Washington 11-9, even though the injuries could still limit the team, but I think Utah finds a way to get it done. And you just need your point guards. You need guys to distribute the ball. We're seeing everyone struggle because of it. Utah is forcing guys to play out a role. Brendan Carlson, of course, can still do his things, but once again, you just need the point guard to get Gabe Madsen and Cole Badgema those open looks. Get the lobs going more for Kaba and Brendan Carlson too, and they're available there too, as well as setting up Lawson inside. Like, you just need those things to happen. This team is too banged up at the guard spot right now, and they need to get back and healthy if they want to make serious noise in the Pac-12. But I do think they beat Washington this weekend. Also in action is going to be the Utah women's basketball team. They will take on the Oregon Ducks on Friday night, so just later tonight. And I do think Utah gets Oregon in this one. We just talk about the way Alyssa Peely is currently playing right now, some of the depth for Utah as well, really starting to get it going. And Oregon, their women's basketball team is not what they used to be back when they had Sabrina Ionescu and look, even like they lost to Stanford and Cal, and those aren't bad losses because we know how good the Pac-12 is, but they've lost a lot this year. They're 11-9 overall, 10th in the Pac-12 currently. So I got to pick Oregon to lose that one, and feeling good about that one for Utah too. Lastly, Utah Gymnastics team is back in action for their first game of the Pac-12, for the first meet of the Pac-12 season, currently ranked 5th. They're going to take on Arizona State. And for those of you who forgot, I was looking through the game notes, which are always well done by the Utah Athletics website. Utah actually lost to Arizona State in Tempe last year. They lost 197 550 to 197 500. So it was very close, and it was a very surprising loss because Utah had won 9 of their last 10 against Arizona State. And overall, Utah is 38-2 at the Huntsman Center against Arizona State. Utah was, of course, picked to win the Pac-12 in the preseason, and I expect them to take care of business. You know, Coach Dockendorf with the team, everyone they got. You know, we talk about McKenna Smith, Miley O'Keefe, Jaden Rucker, Abby Polson. This Utah women's gymnastics team will take care of business. They are better than Arizona State. They're coming off that. They had that break after they had those 2 quick quad meets back to back. Now they get the chance. They've had the chance to rest up, get healthy, and I think they'll open Pac-12 play inside the Huntsman with a win. I'm sure it'll be a packed house as it always is. So it's going to be fun to see all the things that play out this week at the University of Utah and some of those teams traveling away too. So we'll keep an eye on all of those. But that's going to do it for this week's edition of this episode, but the week as well, of Locked On Utes. We appreciate all of you for always following along and supporting. Once again, make sure you like and subscribe. Thank you guys again for always supporting the show. One of my favorite things I get to do during the week is discuss all things Utah athletics with all of you, whether it's in the comments or these sided conversations I have with you for 20 minutes every Monday through Friday as well. But thank you for all of you. Hope you all have a fantastic weekend and can't wait to be back with you next week talking more things Utah football and Utah athletics. We'll see you then. Have a great weekend.